France is getting refugees from Morocco and Algeria and so forth. We're getting a fairly educated group, doctors, lawyers, right? But they're coming from all over. I don't know if any of you know Ramez Istanbuli, who is the imam of the Okba Mosque in Fair Hill, kind of university circle. He teaches in my department. We've been friends for years. And I've often talked to him about what's it like to run that mosque. And he tells me. And it makes you think synagogues are like a piece of cake. Because you've got people coming from all over the world. You've got uneducated Somalis. You've got Pakistani doctors. They're all doing Islam different ways. They calculate Ramadan at different times, right? Some follow Saudi Arabia, some follow a calendar. Some say if you follow a calendar, that's bid'ah, that's an innovation, that's heretical. So to run that mosque is Nigerians have to do it different again. Yeah, so the American Muslim community doesn't have a voice. It has lots of voices that can't get together on anything. And I think they need a generation or two to sort of get Americanized, just like we did as the Jewish community. But right now, there's no overall organization, so it's all these imams and all these communities, and they are just as, and they have loyalties to homeland, and they hate the governments back there. They're all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, two questions. One is, what is the, how do you explain all these people willing to give up their life? It's just amazing to me. Some people just want to die just to blow themselves up. Is there a precedence in past history in Islam of that? Is there anything that you've ever seen?
There is a little bit of past history of people willing to just blow themselves up. Oh yeah, I'll blow myself up. There is some. Why are so many people willing to blow themselves up? First of all, I have to tell you, it's not that many people, right? If you think of 2 billion Muslims, 40 of them blowing themselves up is not a big deal, right? But part of it is despair. Part of it is, and did any of you in the Jewish Film Festival see For My Father's Sake? It's a good example. Or Apocalypse, Paradise Now is another one. A lot of mixed motives. There is a little bit of precedence in the Arab world, but not much, and especially around the time of the Crusades, when you had people get high on hashish, and would then go out and kill crusaders who got called hashishans, or assassins, as we would now call them. But these are kind of marginal movements at very particular, parlous times. It's not something that Muslims kind of do.
Well, that's the other part of that question. The question that I have is, there's such a wide variety of adversaries, and there's a lot of violence. What is the present recommendation that you would give to a leadership to intervene here, either militarily or culturally or economically or some other ways? Because we have to use other strategies. The old "let's take the tanks" isn't going to work. This is not the way. So what kind of diverse suggestions can you make?
So the question is, what would I recommend? What, an American leader?
No, it's just anybody.
Anybody to do.
This is a world issue.
Yeah. I think every country is its own problem, and it's got its own solution. Universal solutions are not going to work. So Afghanistan has to be dealt with as Afghanistan, Pakistan, they're very, very different. I think Crystal in Afghanistan gets it. Whether the solution is right or not, I don't know. But he gets it. But he gets it for Afghanistan, and it won't work anywhere else. And all of these countries have such different backgrounds, thinking, radical groups. Each one has to be thought through independently. And I don't think any one leader anywhere can do that.
Is it all military?
Military is not going to solve anything. Military never does solve anything. And I'm not anti-war, anti-military. I've been in the military. Military, Clausewitz said it best. He's my favorite military writer from the Prussian, from Prussia. That war is simply policy by other means. It's politics by other means. It's got to be diplomacy, and military doesn't solve things. It usually makes things worse. But that's my personal opinion.
I wanted to ask a question in regard to a faint optimism here that I heard with the younger generation. We've had this group for 14 centuries. It's actually, I believe, by reading growing faster than any other religion. The fundamentalists are doing more and more damage, it seems to me. So I'm wondering, what in your opinion makes Islam and fundamentalism so attractive?
All right, so the question is, what makes Islam and fundamentalism so attractive? And I think what you mean is Islamic fundamentalism, or do you mean fundamentalism?
No, I mean,
Because we have plenty of fundamentalism in this country. I think it's not Islam, and this is my reading, because Islam, for most of its history, has been fairly peaceful. I mean, you know, as much as anybody else. But I think the British, after World War I, got in so much over their head and did so much damage in the way they rearranged the Muslim world that they scrambled the egg beyond unscrambling it. And I think that's the problem. I think because what you have is a bunch of what do I want to say, artificial states that do not have any coherence, that were never able to establish legitimate governments, that have no functioning economies, that have large, very young populations, that are despairing and hopeless, and the government has dealt with, all of the governments have dealt with that by suppressing free press and expression and democracy, and it's an entirely dysfunctional region, independent of Islam, and I blame it on the British. And I mean, not me, I mean everybody does, except the British. I mean, I know the Jews. I didn't say this. And you know, I think Islam is getting drawn into this because, as somebody once said, you know, the Egyptian logic is, all right, we tried Westernization, that didn't work. We tried socialism, that didn't work. We tried secularism, that didn't work. We tried democracy, that didn't work. Let's try Islam, right? And when you want to try Islam, then you go to the Salafi and they say, oh, we've got the answer. And look, it worked once, and it maybe worked twice in Saudi Arabia, and maybe it'll work a third time in Hamas. Come on, people, see, we've got the answer. Now, of course, when they get into power, it won't work either. And then what comes after that, I don't know. But I don't think the problem is Islam, but I think there's real social and political problems that are just not going to get solved really quickly. By anybody. Do we have one more?
Well, I think you can take it as private. So, of course, I want to thank Dr. Haas so much for joining us.